everyone. Welcome to Culture Forward. I am Rebecca Del Secco. I am the COO of Civility Partners. We are in the realm of all things toxic behavior, toxic culture, and ultimately making a more positive workplace for all of our clients and everyone that we work with. I'm here with Sue Mann, who is also in our space. So I'm super excited for this conversation because we love all things icky and we're going to talk about it. And so I'll let her introduce herself, and then I have a bunch of questions, and we're going to talk about when a high performer is hurting the team and a culture first approach to the abrasive leadership. So I'll let Sue share how amazing she is.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and hello everyone who is watching live or joining the recording. Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
And so tell us a little bit about your background. And I know you just have your background's so exciting. So I want you to share it. I don't want to read it. I want you to share it.
Oh, but I think you have to share what you find exciting in it. I think for those of you in the US and you're immediately wondering, okay, she has an accent. What is it? It's South African. I've been in the US since 2001. And maybe the exciting part is my first career iteration, and I've done so many career iterations. There's a TED Talk show that is called The Multi-Potentialites. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. Chameleon. I've reinvented myself so many times. But my very first career was as a diplomat for the South African government. And in fact, for the first democratic South African government. Mm-hmm. I graduated university and Nelson Mandela came to power. And I got to represent his government. And I was in the Middle East for 6 years, Egypt and Palestine, which is a completely different story.
I know. We could probably just talk about do a biography of you probably on this. I know we're pointed towards where you're at now, but I think.
And then I can just sort of point towards people if people are really interested in learning about that time of my life. Then I have, it's memoir/fiction. So the ungainly word for that is autofiction, which sounds hideous. It sounds like AI wrote it, or I don't know what it sounds like. But when you fictionalize memoir, so, and it's available, it's called On the Road to Jericho. And it tells all about my experiences growing up in apartheid South Africa, then being in Egypt and Palestine, and my first encounters with the asshats, as I call them.
The jerks.
Nope, asshats. We're going to go with asshats, and we can get into why I call them that.
I love it. I think, we're going to focus on the asshats today. I'll say that live on LinkedIn. So tell me a little bit more about the individuals that you work with. I know, many organizations, they keep these brilliant but difficult people, and the two of us know that all too well. And so talk to me about, the cost and what you see of sort of keeping or not addressing these brilliant but difficult individuals.
Oh, just a small question.
Keep it, maybe 30 minutes explanation of what that is.
I think the first part of your question first. Mm-hmm. Why? Why do I engage with this? Because I've been on both sides of it. What do I mean by that? So if you heard someone described as, and in fact, I'm going to find the exact words, condescending, argumentative, questionable business judgment, unable to develop an effective team, difficult to work with, inflexible, lacking in ownership and responsibility. Mm-hmm. Does this sound like someone you want to work with or have on your team?
No, I've worked with them before, but I would not want to work with one again.
Exactly. It's like, ooh, hard pass, run them out.
Not here at Civility Partners, I will say. Never here, but in a past life.
All right. Then how about this person? They're described by their colleagues as, and these are literal words that were said. Easygoing, professional, welcoming, a great communicator, entrepreneurial, collaborative, deeply committed to the work, a pleasure to work with. Is this someone you want to work with?
Yeah, absolutely.
What if I said they're the same person?
I would believe you, knowing, but I also I have the background, but I think for people watching, or people who have maybe been on the receiving end of the first part of that person, would not believe that.
Yeah. So why do you believe it? Sorry, I'm turning the tables on you now, and I'm just asking you a question.
No, I believe it because we coach them. I've done 360s, and every individual that we coach, there's the two sides. There's the strengths and the opportunities, and I've never once heard, they're a horrible person and they can't change. It's always, they're really intelligent, or they really care, but they do this. So I've seen them change. And also, for someone who is outside of our realm and knows that about people, I think it is, or is experiencing it currently, it can be difficult to think that there's that other side.
I said I'd been on both sides of this. Mm-hmm. That's feedback on me.
Okay.
And what was the truth? The truth is, both were right and both were wrong. Mm-hmm. The truth was, it didn't matter what the truth was. It was who had the power to make the truth stick. Mm. And hint, it wasn't me. It was the person who had just put me in that bucket. And that's all they saw. That's it. That's who I was. Case closed. Mm-hmm. And it was fairly classic, pretty much textbook workplace bullying, mm-hmm. And had all the textbook negative effects on me. I mean, I can laugh about it. It was no laughing matter at the time. Mm-hmm. It is a well-known fact that people on the receiving end of this is it's traumatic. So traumatic that it often triggers PTSD. Mm-hmm. And it did in my case, and actually in my case, complex PTSD, because of all this other stuff that had happened. Just growing up in, at the time, the most violent country in the world outside of a war zone, that was South Africa in the 1980s. Mm-hmm. Experiences in the Middle East, just not a little other bit of stuff in there. And the part of the reason why bullying is experienced as so traumatic, and I've had both types of PTSD. The PTSD from just having literally had my life threatened, mm-hmm. like literally being in scenarios where it's like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to live through this story, like having guns and tanks pointed at me and stones and Molotov cocktails and stuff like that going on, to sitting in a conference table and basically being told I'm shit. Mm. The latter is so much more traumatic because the first wasn't targeting who I am. It wasn't about me. The latter, it was about me. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm worthless. I'm shit. So, and the reason, and then being on both sides, I also had to recognize the times, part of my healing and my work, I regret to this day. And if and when I track the person down, I will give them a hug. And if they ever listen to this, I am sorry. Mm-hmm. I will never forget the time early in my career when I reduced a grown man to tears. It was inexcusable. I had all of your standard defensive, necessary, noble. It was hard, but he needed the feedback. I just needed to get through to him. I was under pressure. He wasn't getting it. He deserved it. All your textbook classic, defensive dodges and excuses. Nothing excuses the fact that I reduced a grown man. Intentionally, deliberately. It's like, I'm going to keep pushing until I make him get it, and I didn't care what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I reduced him to tears. That was not okay. And I still feel guilty around that. And I want to say, whenever I see him one day, it's like, I deeply apologize to you. So I've been on both sides. I've needed that, and that is, that classic thing. So why do I do this work? Mm-hmm. because I am, and this is perhaps where you and I break with so much of what's out there on the workplace bullying community, these people are still human beings, valuable human beings. They are just as worthy of coaching and support as anyone else. I'm not apologizing for their behavior, excusing their behavior, saying it's okay. It's not. But nor am I okay with writing them off. They're just a narcissist. They're uncoachable. They can never change. That's just the way they are. Catherine and I both use language I call complete BS on that. They are completely capable of change, but you do need to know how to invite that change in them. And it is a process, and it is not one conversation. It is not an easy conversation. It is absolutely possible. One of the mentors that both Catherine and I have both worked with, Laura Crawshaw, her phrase is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Yes. But you can make it thirsty. And the way you make it thirsty, that horse thirsty, the way you invite change is understanding the dynamic, understanding what's going on, knowing how to intervene effectively. And it does mean understanding power dynamics and using it. So I was literally just on a call with someone this morning, an HR business partner herself, by the way. And she's just describing a situation to me. And I'm like, I was just like, I don't want you going into this meeting one-on-one with somebody. You need to take someone with you, because it's like, we cannot put the burden on the person on the receiving end of these difficult behaviors to now manage them. I'm sorry, that's grossly unjust, grossly unfair. And by the way, it's asking them to wear even more of a target on their back. The people who do have responsibility are the ones who have power, who are this person's boss. It is the senior leadership. We absolutely need to respect and appropriately, compassionately, humanely use power dynamics. Because it's all about power dynamics. And like, oh, you should just go and talk to that person, tell them the way you feel. No, oh my God, no. Oh, stand up for yourself. Oh, no. Oh, yes, stand up for yourself. But the time to stand up for yourself was the very first time they ever said something that was disrespectful. Once you miss that opportunity, because bullying follows a test then escalate model. And the test then escalate, they are constantly, the power dynamic is shifting and not in your favor all of the time. So now what so often happens, the first response from someone on the receiving end of this is like, just take it, ignore it, dismiss it, like don't set a boundary, don't ruffle feathers,
minimize.
It's feedback. All feedback is a gift. I must have done something to deserve that. Absolutely. Maybe you do have a role in it, but it still doesn't excuse disrespectful behavior. So it's like, if you don't catch it early, when you are on the receiving end of it and you've become the target for the bully, when you now do eventually start standing up for yourself, no, this is not okay. Now you're insubordinate, unable to take feedback, resistant, all of that wonderful stuff. So it's a complete mind F. Anyway, it's sort of like the gaslighting, it's crazy making. You literally sometimes feel like you've landed up in an alternative universe. So, the reason why I do this work is I started off by wanting to support the people on the receiving end of this. But you quickly realize, okay, in the words of my wonderful man from my homeland, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, you can carry on fishing the bodies out of the water, or you can go upstream and solve the source of the problem. All right. Source of the problem, two things: the person themselves and the system and context in which they are operating. Because and I will shut up.
No, that's okay.
In a few moments.
I want to hear I want to hear this.
if you take someone who is a little rough around the edges, and actually one of the best analogy is if you put a healthy pickle in a jar of bad pickles, how long will the pickle stay healthy? Not very long. Put an unhealthy pickle, a moldy pickle, in a jar of healthy pickles. Either two things are going to happen. If it's a pickle and the other pickles can't respond, it's going to start now turning everything else bad. In a healthy culture where humans have agency and they take in control, they see, okay, pickle, you got added, or you're a little rough around the edges. We don't do that here.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not our you bad person. It's just, that's not our culture. We don't do that here. And you have those conversations early and often. So healthy cultures, healthy systems that are not about punitive blame and shame and judgment, that are around practicing accountability, where we are both holding ourselves accountable before we hold anyone else accountable, as well as holding other people to account. Somebody comes in who's sort of like going against these norms of civility, respect, dignity, kindness, whatever it is that culture has, then that first sort of like, yeah, okay, that might have been okay in your workplace. We don't do that here. If they're really smart, they're actually weeding it out even on the interviews. They're not even bringing them in. I can really recommend Adam Grant's Givers Takers little talk here. It's brilliant about sort of like how to actually even spot this. There are multiple ways to spot it through an interview process. They just address it. It's like, no, we don't do that here. No big deal. But it's like they're setting that boundary and that expectation early. It's the unhealthy cultures that don't have good cultures of respect, dignity, accountability, ongoing and regular feedback, where we are leaving this to performance reviews rather than realizing what we do, how we do something matters as much as what we do. If we don't have those kinds of cultures, then and again, I'm going to cite Catherine here. What does she say? Any behavior that is ignored, tolerated, or rewarded is going to persist.
That was what I was thinking, was people ask, well, why do they behave that way?
Because they're allowed to.
It's because it's tolerated.
Because they're allowed to.
Because they are allowed to. Yeah, 100%.
It is that simple. And that's not, now, again, that's not victim blaming and saying it's the responsibility of the person in the power dynamics below them, although they do have a role. I will say that. They do have a role.
Absolutely.
The primary responsibility still rests with the people who do have power. All right, I will find shut up.
Yeah, and what we find is, it's threefold. You have the individuals, how everyone interacts on a daily basis, those people that play a role. You have leadership, how they function as a whole and as individuals. But then what's missing is what you mentioned is the processes, how you hire, how you do performance management, how are you onboarding? Onboarding tells new hires what the culture is, what is tolerated and what isn't. It's not orientation, which is the training, the job, the going through all
that's
of your
all the compliance stuff.
All the compliance. That is when I first started in this work, was really that shift. Or orientation is not onboarding. That's very different. They both serve very important purposes, but different purposes. And so that's that other prong is the systems, which you also mentioned. And they all have to work together in order to create that culture.
And the OB people, the organizational behavioral people, they actually call that organizational socialization. There's a socialization period. There's actually a very interesting, and people can look this up, and it's a fascinating little chat. Robert Sapolsky, he's a Stanford. No, he's not a neuroscientist. I can't remember, but he's some kind of Stanford bigwig. His book is Why Don't Zebras Get, or I should say zebras as American, but zebras in South Africa. Why don't zebras get ulcers? And he's very interested in group dynamics and stress responses. And early in his career, he was studying a tribe of baboons. And I think this was in Zimbabwe or Zambia, I can't remember where. And it just so happened that there was a trash site for a hotel where, the waste, especially food waste, was being thrown out. And the baboons had learned about this and were frequent visitors. And there was a complete unintentional natural experiment that happened. It so happened that contaminated meat was thrown out. I believe it was tuberculosis. Can't remember. It had a very interesting impact, which was it mostly killed off the jerks, the males. The male jerks is who it mostly killed off in this baboon tribe. So what was left was not only more female than male, but your nice males. I'm not saying females don't engage in this behavior. They absolutely do. Let me be clear. Females are females hugely engage in this. And anyway, so overnight, or practically overnight, there was this massive shift in the culture and the dynamics in the group. Here's what happened, and this ties back to your onboarding. What happens in baboon tribes is that young males get kicked out of the tribe and they must go find another tribe. And in their tribe, they might have been doing like typical adolescent baboon males do. They're kind of trying, there's all the jockeying for position, it's all the jerkiness, it's all the, male testosterone and aggression and all of that. And as Robert Sapolsky says, scientifically just being jerks. And so they get kicked out of their tribe. They come to this tribe. And what happens? They get taught in this tribe, we don't do that. In this tribe, we play nice. So I'm going to be a little more crass here. If baboons can do it, we have no excuse. None.
Yeah. I love that. I'm going to have to go read that because I love the study of behavior. It's so intriguing, and it makes complete sense. It's it's that toleration and culture.
And it's like there's so often, and this is also like I was talking to someone in HR the other day, and it's sort of like, what assessments do you use? And I just go, not personality assessments.
There's so many too. There's so many out there.
But time and time again, what we're talking here is poor behavior is not a personality problem. It's a culture, systems, context. It's like, what is happening in the culture, in the system, in the context that is bringing out this behavior or enabling or tolerating or rewarding or ignoring that behavior? It's sort of like, yes, I'm not saying personality doesn't exist. It does. But how personality is expressed is a function of the context we find myself in. I might have the same personality, but I show up very differently in church than I do, on my rowing team. When my rowing team is like, we're going to get in there. It's like, we're going to yell. We're going to encourage. I'm still the same person. I still have the same personality. And so it's like, it's not this, it's just personality conflict. No, it's not.
Yeah, I agree. And because we have a few minutes, but I really want to talk about that intervention piece, because you're doing a lot of work around supporting managers in that intervention. And so I want to hear more about that. And I think you call it compassionate intervention with backbone. So I want to hear more about that.
Yes, we have a 1 day, and we can link it in the comments, a 1 day confident manager masterclass training for the managers of what we call these assets, of the brilliant but difficult people. Why the managers? Because they're the ones with the power. Why them? Because honestly, they're the ones who need the support. It's like, I can go in and I can coach someone, the abrasive leader, but I'm one person. How many people can I coach in my lifetime? If we can skill up managers into how they have these trainings. And so it won Best Training 2025 in CNY, Central New York ATD, Association for Talent Development. Very pleased about that. And we were nominated by participants. We were blown out of the water when we heard, like we had no idea. So our next training is coming up pretty soon. It is September 25th in Binghamton, New York. And yes, also several organizations have reached out to me that also want to bring this training in-house to do it for their managers. And what it turned out is, like, we didn't plan it this way. I mean, we planned this training. We go two things. One is we go narrow and deep. It's all about how to have this conversation with the assets. And then it's not theory. It is you practice having the conversation. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. It's like we have them practice the conversation again and again and again throughout the day. So it's super practical. Yes, of course, we give them theory and concepts, but it's mostly like 80% of the day is actually having these conversations. The feedback we heard afterwards is that because we actually landed up narrowing our focus, it's like it's how to do this one thing. It landed up, it's also a sort of a more general management and leadership development training, because this is some of the most difficult stuff any of us has to do, is have that conversation with the person who we know this is not gonna, if we have a modicum of emotional intelligence, we know this conversation is not going to go well. Or we know this conversation is not going to be easy. And if we think it's going to be easy, we need to check. It's like, maybe we're not quite as emotionally intelligent as we think we are. So it lands up like when we upskill managers in this domain, we're upskilling them in all of these other domains. But because we haven't tried to go, a mile wide and an inch deep, we go, an inch wide and a mile deep on this one specific thing.
Yeah. I think it's such an important skill. I think it's one that people don't think proactively about. It is more and we experience that too. And the people we coach and train, and we, when we're doing our coaching, we have added where we're prepping that person's supervisor, because they play such a key role in that person's engagement in the program. We had one person, it was, and of course it didn't go well. Not surprisingly, said, the engaging in coaching with us is not a punishment. And so when we asked the supervisor, well, how did you communicate the punishment? And he said, well, you're it. And we said, that is not what we discussed. And but they do want to pull, because they don't know how to have that conversation. They don't know. They don't want to be the bad guy or woman. And it is really important. And it's a skill, again, that people don't realize they need until they are experiencing it.
One of the little things that we work with, we work with a lot in the training, but one of the starting things that we work with is to manage a difficult person. First, you need to manage yourself. There's a lot of prep work you as a manager yourself need to do. Sometimes, honestly, that is more my work. Support the manager, not coach the person. Because right then I've scaled my impact, right? They can, once they have their skill, they can use it wherever. Because they may have tried to have the conversation before, or just as often they haven't tried to have the conversation before. And sort of they need to recognize and know how to manage their own triggers, because there's only one guarantee in this conversation. You are going to activate the other person. It's the quote unquote asshat. Why? Because you're telling them that they are doing something that's not Okay, that is going to activate them. And so they're going to come out the way they come out, fight, flight, freeze, or appease, and they tend to go to fight. And you need to know how to keep your cool when they are getting defensive, when they are slinging accusations, when they're engaging. It's noble, it's necessary, it's not me, it's them, it's justified.
It didn't happen like that.
Didn't happen like that.
That's not what happened.
They have, like, to not get pulled into those fact battles. Because as soon as you start down that path, you've lost the conversation. And so it actually, this is why this is not an ordinary feedback conversation. And this is why it takes so much more thought, preparation, skill, intention. It's like you really need to know how to manage yourself. Because, and this is part of the other work I do, it is your groundedness, your calmness, your centeredness, that is what conveys how serious this is. It's not you losing your voice or pleading. I've heard the pleading. Would you please just, I can understand it. And, there's sort of, well, it was interesting. I've also been called, one of the organizations that wants me to do this in-house for them. They're a trauma-informed network, a regional trauma-informed network. And what they've experienced is that as people who work in the trauma field have become so much more aware of trauma, and that is wonderful. It's sort of like now they've tipped to the other side of now, oh, well, it's because they're stressed out, it's because they're traumatized, it's because this happened in their past or what have you. And I'm like, there's a friend of mine from Jerusalem, her son was actually, he was actually one of the ones who was shot in Burlington, Vermont a couple of years ago. And she came out with a really pithy saying, because the person who shot him, and he's now a paraplegic for life, was like, oh, he had mental health challenges. She just looked at the interviewer and she was like, not every person who has a mental health challenge picks up a gun and shoots people. It's sort of like, yes, we want compassion. It is not compassionate to convey to someone is to let them think their behavior is okay when it's not. That's not actually how. Part of your responsibility as a leader and as a manager is to help someone grow, is to develop them. If you're seeing they are doing something that is getting in their own way of their effectiveness, their ability to grow, whatever their goals are, if you don't say something, you're not actually helping them. You're saying it's about, oh, you don't want to hurt their feelings. No, you don't actually not want to hurt their feelings. It's actually about you. You don't want to sit with the discomfort of the fact that they're going to have feelings. So you're actually protecting yourself. You're not protecting them. And that is not compassionate or kind.
No. It reminds me of radical candor, challenge directly and
care deeply.
Care deeply. Yeah. And otherwise you're in, what is it, ruinous empathy? Or that would really stuck with me when I read that book, and I love that book.
Or Brene Brown's clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So it's be kind and be clear. That's the challenge directly. Be clear, care deeply, and be kind. It's the same thing. Yes, we need to be in that quadrant.
Yes, in that quadrant. It sticks in my mind. I can pull it up in my brain quite often in conversations like this. And so we're actually a little bit over, but want to just thank you so much for being on here. I got so many nuggets and I love how you pull from so many different experiences, things you've read, TED Talks. And so now I have to go look all of them up. And I know some of them, but I will have to go check them out. And just thank you so much for sharing, your deep knowledge of this.
And I look forward to connecting with you and people. And it's like, I don't want you in my masterclass, but I want you in my masterclass. It's like, if you are challenged, if you're feeling like you're managing someone who has got these edgy behaviors and you're trying to get through to them and it's feeling challenging, and it's like, oh, how do I help them see? Please sign up. We'll put the link.
Love it.
Love to have you.
All right.